such a historic setting and for the lovely introduction. Good evening, Kolkata. Hello. Namaskar. আমি আমার প্রিয় কলকাতাতে এসে ভীষণ আনন্দ পেয়েছি। আগে যখন আমি এখানে এসেছিলাম তখন মানিকদার সঙ্গে কাজ করার সুযোগ হয়েছিল আর মৃণাল সেনের সঙ্গে। সেই দিনগুলোর কথা ভাবলে আমার মনে এখনো খুব খুশি হয়। কলকাতার জন্যে আমার বিশেষ টান আছে। আমার মনে হয় কোনো এক জন্মে আমি বোধহয় বাঙালি ছিলাম। Because, I love Rabindra Sangeet. I love Bengali food. I love Bengali films and Bengali literature. And I love the environment, the intellectual environment of Bengal that produces Nobel laureates. There's a vibrancy in Kolkata that I don't find anywhere else. There is passion here, a lot of passion, and a lot of poetry. And it's an amazing combination. And I love Bengali culture, and I love you all for coming here tonight. Thank you so much.
Over to Jayabrato Da. Jayabrato Chatterjee is an eminent filmmaker, writer, author, and a man of many, many parts. And when we first suggested this session to ma'am, she was delighted to know that Jayabrato Da would be here and really looked forward to this conversation, as we all are at this moment. Over to you, Jayabrato Da.
Good evening, friends. It's a huge honor to be interviewing Simi yet again, and having interviewed Manikda and Mrinal several times in my career as a journalist. Today is a very, very special day for us because I don't think I have interviewed anybody from the world of cinema who has been so kind and so compassionate and so giving as Simi and Gugi, a sister who is here with us today. And I'll start straight away by talking about the two major films that she did in Calcutta. Simi, did you shoot for Arunne Dinratri in Calcutta at all, or was it completely on location?
Hello, it's on. Is it on? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jayabrato. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to be conversing with you. I don't ever give interviews, but I'm very happy to be talking to you, an old friend of mine. So thank you. Now, regarding Arunne Dinratri, no, I did not shoot at all in Kolkata. We shot in Chipadohar, which was a forest. It was far, far away from humanity. There was nobody else there. There was, where we stayed in Chipador, there was no electricity, no water. No, we had a generator sometimes, and there was no flush.
Oh, dear.
But you know something? It didn't matter. I was working with the greatest director in the world, and I was so happy. I was euphoric. So all these things don't count when you're happy and when you're doing something that you've dreamt of doing.
That's exactly it, because having come from the commercial world of Bombay, where there was it's a completely different scene, to be in a forest away from humanity, and the makeup for Dooli must have taken hours, because
it took 3 hours. Actually, I'll tell you first how I met Manikda.
Yes.
It was on Raj Kapoor's birthday party, and No, let me give you a preface to that. All my life, when I wanted to join films, I had only seen Manik Das films. I was living in London, and there we didn't get to see commercial Hindi films, so I only saw Manik Das films. So I thought that's what all Indian films are about, and those are the films I want to make. So when I came to Mumbai and I found that it was quite different, I kept refusing films. I kept saying, oh, but this is not real. This is like, this is not a true story. This is not happening. Why is the girl disguised as a boy? I don't like all this. So I kept refusing films. And I always dreamt, and my sister and my family will tell you, I always dreamt that one day I would love to work with Manik Da, but how can it ever happen? I'm a Mumbai actress, he's a Bengali director, I don't speak Bengali. Why would he ever take me? No, it can't happen. This is just a fever dream, a pipe dream, a fantasy. So anyway, cut short, I was in Mumbai for Raj Kapoor's birthday party, and 2 or 3 people kept coming to me and saying, have you noticed Mr. Satyajit Ray is looking at you, is watching you? So I looked around the room and there was this lovely, he looks like a Roman nobleman, as I used to say. And I did catch his eye once or twice, but I thought it's not possible, why would he watch me? And then after a little while, Mr. Raj Kapoor said, oh, Mr. Satyajit Ray was at the studio today, and I showed him the first part of Mera Naam Joker, and he absolutely loved your performance. Why don't you go and say hello to him? I think that would be the courteous thing to do. So I said, yeah, okay, I will. I was nervous. And then I went to the garden, and he was nowhere to be found.
Oh, dear.
So I didn't say hello to him. And then, exactly 1 month later, I got a letter from Manik Da. A beautiful letter in which he offered me this role of Duli in Orane Din Ratri. And he said, I want you to come to Mumbai, I want you to come to Kolkata for a screen test. It's only a makeup test because I don't need to be convinced of your acting abilities. I was flying. I couldn't, my feet were not on the ground. I was so excited. I thought, dreams can come true. And that was the beginning. And then I came here, did the screen test, and then after that we went by train and by road, and we went to Chipador, and I had the most amazing month of my life.
It was on for a month?
Yeah, we were there for a month because Manik Da, one thing about Manik Da I realized, I've worked with so many directors, he has a great understanding of each actor. It's not that he directs and that's his way of directing. He knows you. He tries to understand you. And he directs you accordingly. The first week, he didn't let me shoot. He said, just get used to this place. Come and watch some shooting if you want. Just relax, chill. Get this whole place into your system because this place is supposed to be a home. Then one night, he took us all to the Bati Khana. That's where all the Adivasi women sit and drink. I didn't know they drink so much, but they drank a lot. And then when we went there, I was given my dialogue in advance by him because he knew I was always a bit worried about the dialogue. When we reached there, one woman came up to us. We were all there, this group, all the 4 wonderful actors and me and Manik Da, my sister. And she said, she was drunk. And she saw the microphone and she thought it was a bottle of alcohol. So she kept saying, hey, Babu, Babu, dena adha pawa, hey, Babu. And she kept shouting, hey, Babu. And that was my dialogue for the next day. So I didn't have to work hard. I just copied her the next day. And there was, there was a brainwave on his part to take me there. I got used to the atmosphere. And that's what I did. After that, it was all easygoing. And the makeup you're talking about,
Yes,
let me tell you one thing. It took 3 hours to put on that paste makeup. And it shouldn't come off, during the shoot, it shouldn't come off and it shouldn't rub off the clothes or anything. So it was a special, they created this paste. And it goes into your ear, into your scalp. under your fingers, everywhere. And 3 hours to put it on, 2 hours to wash it off. That's the daily routine. But again, I didn't care. I was in seventh heaven.
That's wonderful. But Simi, for the time that you were not shooting, did he expect you to be in costume and
Not
in
at all.
makeup?
Not
No.
at all. No, he didn't expect anything to any costume or anything. But then let me tell you a little. You all know the workings of Manikda. But let me tell you a little personal
Yes,
side.
please.
He and I have the same fetish to play word games. So the moment we got onto the train to go to Ranchi, the first thing we did, sitting in the coupe, was take out some paper and start playing word games. And that became a routine. Every evening after pack-up, Manikda would come to our little hut, or that place where we stayed, and we would spend 2 hours playing word games. And if we were on the same wavelength, and every time we'd find a new game, we'd say, what about this game? What about that game? So he was my playmate as well as my director.
So, you know, having worked with him for the time period that you did, he comes across, from what you say, as a very approachable and a very human and a very
Yes,
wonderful
that surprised
person.
me. That surprised me because I always thought he looked arrogant. And I told him that too. I said, you know, we always thought you looked so arrogant. And he said, oh, come on, don't say that. I said, no, we had that impression. But he was far from that. He was so urbane. He was gentle. He was protective and very kind and thoughtful. These are all bonus points. You know, you get a great director, but then to get all these other virtues
Absolutely.
is an absolute bonus. He became a friend of mine, and we became pen friends. And for many, many years after Orane Din Ratri, there are a bunch of letters that I have from him, which I have kept. And I think in my will, I wanted to go to the Satyajit Ray Foundation because they're beautiful letters, all handwritten. Apart from the letters, you know, every scrap of paper that he wrote on for the games that we played, all his little writings, scratching out, all these things, all those things, papers I've kept. And I'm going to give those as well.
And do you still have a copy of the screenplay with you?
Sorry?
Do you have a copy of the screenplay with you?
No.
Orane Din Ratri?
No, I don't. I didn't need to have it, no.
Did he give you a bound screenplay?
He gave me a bound script, very much so, and the dialogues. And I kept saying, Manikda, do I have to learn Bengali? He said, no, it's only pidgin Bengali, so you don't have to learn it.
But then you speak Bengali so well now. How did you manage
But
to do that?
Jayabrato, I got, you know, when you're in that atmosphere, cut away from the whole humanity, and you're surrounded by these 4 wonderful actors, Shomit Shubhendu-da, Shomit Bhanjuk, and Robida, and they're all singing Rabindra Sangeet, and we're going for walks in the moonlight, and everybody speaking in Bengali. I felt very left out. And I got mesmerized by this whole Bengali culture that when I went back to Mumbai after that shoot, I told Rishikesh Mukherjee, I said, you've got to get me a Bengali teacher. I have to go back after 2 months for another shoot, for another last part of the shoot. And I want to speak in Bengali when I go. Okay. So then I went back. By then I'd learned quite a lot of Bengali, but I learned a very bookish Bengali from my bookish teacher. And I would say, oh, Manikda, ami klanto hoyechi. And he would laugh. And he says, we don't use words like klanto. I said, then I'm tired. He said, that's what we say. Ami tired hoyechi. I said, okay.
So the Bengali happened after the first spell of the shoot?
Between the first and the second. And then when I started speaking in Bengali, they said, were you tricking us the first time by pretending you don't know what we're saying? But no, it was just something that, it was a passion for me to learn the language. Because, as I said, I really, really love Bengali culture. I just love it. I love the way people speak, people sing, people, you know, interact. To me, it's heaven.
Wonderful. But did you get Shomitra to recite any of the Tagore poems for you
He
after
sang.
shoot?
He sang a lot. All of them sang a lot.
And the others?
They sang from, those operas, Shama and...
Chitrangada.
yes, all of them. Beautiful songs. And I went back, then I called Hemant Kumar to my house.
Okay.
And I said, please start singing these songs to me. I want to learn them. And then he spent about 4 or 5 hours and we just recorded songs. And I learned all those songs.
How lovely. And what are your memories of the 4 actors?
The
And
actors.
Did you all stay together? Were you?
No, we had our own little, shall I
dark
call
bungalow.
it, a cottage, a small cottage. And they were up the road in another building. There was so much camaraderie between them, and they were like a group of happy schoolboys in a sense, laughing, joking all the time. And yet when it came to acting, they were all there. What wonderful actors. I've worked with such wonderful Bengali actors, all of those in Ordine Din Ratri, and then Dhriman Chatterjee in Ordine Din, in Padatik. Wow, what an actor. So I've been so privileged to have interacted with the very best talent here.
Now here's a rider. Having worked in this completely, almost heavenly kind of atmosphere, what was it like going back to Bombay and then working there again? Did you find it difficult to adjust?
Jayabrato, the strange thing was that while I was working in Orane Din Ratri, I was simultaneously working in Mera Naam Joker. Now they, Raj Kapoor, Satyajit Ray, are 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. Raj Kapoor, grand, larger than life, a unit of 250 people traveling everywhere across India. The maximum luxury you can dream of, I remember that he wanted 1 sunset shot in Mera Naam Joker. 5 days we went to the same place, 5 days we did the same alap because he wasn't happy with the sunset shot. When I came to Orane Din Ratri, Raj Kapoor had already shot part 2 with Padmini, in which he had exposed 4.5 lakhs of footage. Unbelievable. In the whole film Orane Din Ratri, Satyajit Ray had exposed 30,000 feet because he was precise. He knew what he wanted. And the best part of working with Manikda, which I absorbed and learned, was that before the shoot, he was an artist. He would sketch.
Yes.
Because of his background. And he would come with his red book, as we called it, Lal Boita, and he would show me sketches. And he says, this is the shoot for tomorrow. This is you. And I would see like a film of photo sketches that he had made of what is going to be shot tomorrow, from which angle, how I'm going to be, how my angle will be. It was like seeing a film of me before I'd even shot the film.
Wow.
And then I have now absorbed that. Now when I direct, I make a storyboard. Of course, not a patch on his, but that's what I do. Where is he?
Sundar, come.
Oh, how many years it's been?
I'll tell you how many years.
You tell me.
Padatik released in 1972.
73.
72, I think so. Which means we shot in 71, which means it's exactly 50 years, if my arithmetic is right. But I have to say that even though it's been 50 years, I didn't have the slightest difficulty in recognizing her. It's wonderful to see you.
Just wonderful to be
yeah.
with you again. You were so wonderful. I don't know whether you're aware of it, but during the making of the film, I used to spend my time watching you.
Ah.
You were so...
Yeah, it was a kind of a mutual admiration society.
No, you were so wonderful, so in your role, so subtle in your acting. I learnt a lot from you.
There we go.
I learnt
All right.
a lot from you.
Jayabrato, I'm sorry to have disrupted your session. I'm going to flee. All right. It's really wonderful.
You
My pleasure.
enriched it. I'm so happy that you came up. So back to Orane Din Ratri, and so this precise putting together of the film by Manikda. You know, did that in any way also limit you as an actress in the sense that he just wanted it that way and no other
no,
way?
no, not
Or
at all.
Could you improvise?
He never told me act like this, or he never told me copy me or do anything. Not at all. He gave full freedom to all of us. He never told the other actors either, okay, you know, say it like this. No, put nothing at all. Just let you go. He let you free. He set you free.
That's wonderful, because a lot of actors don't like being controlled. And did you actually get to meet the Santal girls and see their posture?
Absolutely, I
movements?
met them all, met many of them.
And two, I think, were also in the film, or were they actors?
Some of them came in the film, but I went and spent time in their little group.
Okay.
They had little women's groups like that, you know, and I would sit with them. And when I was in makeup, I looked like all of them.
Yes. But sit in the sense that they'd sit on their haunches.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd
One has to do that research, Jayabrato. When you're doing any film or writing a book or writing, you have to do that research. And you have to imbibe it all in you until it comes naturally. But it came so naturally that afterwards, when I came back to Mumbai, I was behaving just like those girls.
You know, I think Aranit Din Ratri was 1968,
1970 it came in.
68, 69 is when you must have shot the film. And Padatik a little later in 70.
Actually, it was released in 73. I had checked, yes.
Yeah, 73. But, you know, you were here for the shoot of Padatik, I remember.
Yeah, I shot here.
Came in, that was the first time I met you at the Kamak Street house where you were shooting. And there's a small aside that I must say was trembling in my knees because I had to interview Simi for the Junior Statesman. And I had gone there a little before lunchtime. So she said, let me finish what I'm doing and then we'll break. So she called some of the production people and said that I have a guest who's a journalist, and do you think he could eat with us? Whatever the food was. And they said, no, madam, you know, budget's very restricted. Didn't think. So she said, doesn't matter, no problem. And she spoke to Mrinal and said, I'm going to come back in hour's time. I don't know whether you remember this, but Sunil Sethi and I were dragged to Sky Room with you the first time we stepped in. And we had a wonderful feed before you went back to shoot again. And that's one memory that I have of you, which has been there for such a long time. So, you know, 1973 was perhaps one of the most volatile times that Calcutta was going through with the Nakshal movement, and which is what part of the film is all about. That was Mrinal Das' very didactic, in-your-face politics. Manik Das was more, in Aranit Din Ratri, you know, class difference between the tribal women and the people who were there, and even within them, the whatever was their socio-economic thing. Today, when you look back, what is your politics? How would you say, are you a humanist? Do you think that that is far more important than very didactic political views that were expressed in Padatik?
No, at that time when I did, I wasn't at all interested in politics. I actually got interested in politics when I made my documentaries on Mr. Rajiv Gandhi.
Yes.
I spent 5 years with him and on these 3 episodes. And that's when I did a lot of research, and I literally had a front row view of what politics is about in Delhi. And that's when I got interested in it. And ever since then, I am avidly an observer of politics and not always happy with what I see happening around me. And I was just thinking the other day that why is there so much turbulence all over the world? And why do all leaders all over the world not just stop this whole turbulence, be happy with their own country, look after their own people, instead of encroaching other people's countries, other people's policies, and interfering in other lives? Why is it that it's happening? I really don't understand. Can we not have peace in the world? Why is peace such a difficult thing to bring about in the world? It's a difficult thing because the world leaders don't want it. They want to create turbulence, they want to create fear, and only by creating fear in people, whether real or unreal, can they take advantage of people and what's happening. I mean, you see, this is historical. It's been happening for centuries, and we know more ever since Hitler, that this is how it all happens. Fake stories, fake hate, fake divisions. It's very wrong. I would imagine that the more kind you are to your people, the more you look after all of them, you will be loved much more as a leader rather than by creating hate.
Absolutely. Coming back to Padatik now, Mrinalda, did he kind of see Arunne Din Ratri and then said that I
Yes, he must have. He must have seen it. He didn't talk to me. With Mrinalda, I didn't have that much interaction with him as I had with Manikda. That way, Mrinalda was more a man's man. He would be happy with sitting with his crew and his bunch of people. He actually basically only talked to me during the shoot and about my role. And he was quite different. It was a different experience of working with him. But believe me, he was very intense about what he wanted. He was very clear about it. And he was that way a force. I'll tell you an anecdote about Mrinalda. He was a taskmaster. Apni Shunchin. I had finished the shooting of Padatik, and I was in Mumbai 3 months later. One night at 10:30, Rishikesh Mukherjee, I was working in his film also. Rishida rang me up at 10:30 at night, and he said, "Simi, you are not dubbing your own voice in Padatik?" Yes. I said, "Of course I am. Why do you say that, Rishida?" He said, "Mrinal is here. He's getting somebody else to dub your voice tomorrow morning." I said, "How can that be? It's not fair. It's not good, Simi. You go and catch him and you tell him that he has to use your voice for the film." So I said, "Where do I find him? It's 10:30 at night." He said, "He is in a place called something, something." And he gave me the directions. I got into my car at 11 o'clock. I drove myself trying to find this vague place. Reached there at midnight, and my car headlights came across this Maidan type of place where there were a lot of beds out in the open. And the headlights came and stopped. And who was in front of me on a charpoy but Mrinal Sen? I got out of the car. I said, "Mrinalda, how can you do this to me?" He said, What has happened?" I said, "You can't do this to me. It's not fair. You're dubbing my voice with somebody else. I can't allow it." He said, "Oh, but Simi, the accent." I said, "Listen, when I asked you, how will I manage the Bengali in your film? You told me, it's okay, Simi. She's a Punjabi girl living in Calcutta. So, cholbe." So I said, that's why I took the role. Now you're saying Punjabi accent. I'm sorry. You can't do it. You have to let me dub my own voice. And even if thoda bahut idhar udhar ho jayega, I said, "So what?" So he said, "Okay, fine. Come tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. You dub your own voice." I went at 9, did the whole dubbing, quick, went off very, very well. And then after more than half the film was done, I came to a shot in which I had to say, pick up the phone and say, "Hello? Apni? Kemun achen?" He says, No. It's kemun achen." So I said, "Oh, okay. Kemun achen?" He said, "Yes." So I said, "Hello? Kemun achen?" "No, it's kemun achen." So I said, "Okay." And I said, "Kemun achen?" He said, "Kemun achen." So I said, "Kemun achen, kemun achen, kemun achen." "Okay." Did it. "Hello? Kemun achen?" No. it's Kamonachin. So I did it again, Kamonachin. 40 times I said Kamonachin, 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 on and on and on. Every time, very patient, I was very. Then finally, he said, it was about 5 o'clock in the evening, he said, I'm going out for a cigarette break. So I said, okay. So we went out to the outside, and who do I see there but Mr. Dilip Kumar. So he said, Are Simi, what are you doing here? I said, Yusuf Saab, I'm working with Mr. Mrinal Sen. Oh, the great, legendary Mrinal Sen, National Award winner. I would love to meet him. I said, of course, and just then Mrinalda was walking up. So I said, Mrinalda, please come. I want you to meet Mr. Dilip Kumar. I said, Yusuf Saab, this is Mr. Mrinal Sen. And very humbly, Mr. Dilip Kumar went up to him and he said, Dada, Kamonachin. No, it's Kamonachin.
To Dilip Kumar.
He says to Mr. Dilip Kumar. Dilip was shocked. I was laughing. I was doubled up with laughter. But after that whole session, we became friends also. Then he wrote me also many letters. You know, those were not the days of WhatsApps. We still have all those letters, and
yes,
they mean a lot. And after seeing Rendezvous, he would write to me, and so it was very nice. I enjoyed that.
But when you were shooting in Calcutta, did you get to feel that tense atmosphere of the Nakshal movement at all? Or was it just hotel and going to the...
No, that was in the script. I didn't have much to do with it. I never went outside. I didn't know what was happening. So
Because it was all in that flat. I think it was just shot in that flat.
it was all shot in the flat.
Yeah.
It was just, yeah.
Sheila Mitra and Dooley. How do you assess them today? Who's your favorite?
Dooley. I love Dooley. I think she was very sweet. But Sheila, poor thing, she suffered a lot. And she was a strong woman who like many women in India today, who are persecuted in their marriages. But she fought. She was a fighter also. So the fight in Padatik was on two sides. One was the guerrilla fighter, which was Dhritiman, and one was Sheila, who was fighting the domestic fight. Yes. And they were both in their own battle. And that's what was a very good juxtaposition which Mrinalda had created in this film, to show it's not just men who are fighting the battles, the women are also. Yeah. And she emerged very strong, and I like that about the film.
And I think that perhaps Mrs. Mitra, Sheila, was, her battles were far more internal. In the sense they were emotional battles that she had to take. In the context of her and her life, because she was a woman in advertising, she was somebody who had a job, she was independent.
Yeah.
She was independent. And yet, perhaps trying to get a very difficult divorce, when she screams at the husband on the phone, and how do you relate that to the women in India today who have come a long, long way in terms of their lives, their independence, their...
I told you, it's happening all around us. So many women are going through that, what Sheila Mitra went through in Padatik. But the best part is that women have become financially independent.
Yes. Yes.
And that is the message that I have tried. You know, even when I made my series called It's a Woman's World, the first television series I made, the one point I wanted to emphasize to all women was, please be financially independent. Because when you're financially independent, you can do what you like. You don't have to put up with anything anymore. It's basically financial dependence on a man. And in those days, men wanted to keep women financially dependent, because then they would have a hold on them. They didn't want women to be financially independent, but women battled for it, and they did it. And I admire the women of today. They are working women, they are also wives, they are mothers, they are daughter-in-laws. They balance all these roles They are the super women of the world.
Back to the two directors. Did you get to meet their wives? Did you get to meet Geeta Di and did you get to meet Bijaya Ray at all? Was she there for the shoot?
No, they don't.
Because she usually did
I
the
think
costumes.
all directors and working people keep their personal lives away from their...
But Manikda's wife is very involved with costume and that kind of thing. She wasn't there for Arunedi.
There's not much of a costume I had anyway.
Not for you, but the other characters.
I don't know about that.
Rinku Di
It was really funny when I arrived in Kolkata to work in Podatik. First person I rang up was Manikda. And he said, Simi, what are you doing here? I said, oh, Manikda, I've come to work with Mrinal Sen. You're in Kolkata? I said, yes. Very good. I have found a new word game and I'm coming over in 15 minutes. And that's what happened.
So between Mr. Ray's word games and Mrinalda's Kamunachul,
I'm so scared of saying Kamunachan now. I never use that word. I say, how are you?
how was, your looking back now on the working style of both the directors? Was Manikda more organized and Mrinalda more spontaneous?
No, they're both very organized, both very precise about their work. They're just, as human characteristics are different, they just have different natures. That's all. But they're both superb directors. No wonder they are the best in the world, because they really are good at their job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because in many ways, I think, I don't know how you feel, that Mrinalda's politics often took over his stories. For Manikda, the story was the most important thing. And he kind of wove his magic around the characters that he was dealing with.
Oh, beautiful stories that he made. They were so human, because he was very human. Behind, you project who you are in your... I feel an editor of a magazine projects who he is and his thinking in the magazine. And the same with the director in a film. Who he is and what he is comes out in the films that he makes. That's how it is. Everybody has, worked with 50 different directors. Everybody has their own different style of working. But what I especially liked was that Manikda understood me. And he dealt with me because he understood me. And that was wonderful.
Because there wasn't much to do after the shoots for Arunedi and Ratri. You just must have gone back to...
And played games.
And played word games.
Yes.
That's all that you did.
Yes, or we would go for walks, all of us, at night. And you must understand, no electricity, no light, only the moonlight.
Wonderful.
So it was heavenly. And he was such a romantic about these things. I remember once we were walking in the moonlight, all of us, the boys and all of us, and in the distance we could hear the nuns singing. And Manikda was so moved by it. He put on his recorder. He always carried his recorder.
Yeah, small recorder.
He put on it and he remembered it for years after. And he said, do you remember that night when we all walked and we could hear the nuns singing in the distance? These are things that got into his heart, He was moved by it. He was a very soft person. A very gentle, soft. Everything affected him. Every word, every sound, every visual affected him.
Because when you see the framings in his films and Mrinalda's films, I think Mrinalda just wanted to get along to tell his story or politics or whatever. Manikda was an artist. He framed each of his...
And Manikda is the only director I know who was the camera operator. He was the camera operator of every single shot. So here is the man who is the true auteur. He was the writer, the director, also the camera operator, the editor, the music director.
Yes.
It was completely his film in every way.
Very true. But now that you remember the moonlight, and you remember the walks. You remember any of the songs that you sang with him?
Oh,
Will you
all
sing
of
a
them.
song?
Manikda didn't sing.
Will
The
you
boys
sing
sang.
a song for us that you
No,
remember,
no, no.
a Bengali song?
Not at all.
I'll sing along with you, a little bit, that you can help.
Which ones do you want to sing?
You tell me which is the one that you remember.
I remember so many. There's so many I remember.
Anything from Chitrangada or from...
They used to sing that song from Shama, I think it was. Primeri Joare,
Bhashabuto Hare,
Bandul
Tuli Dao, 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 Dao,
Pichre Pagona, Changrana.
Pal Tuli Dao, 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 Dao. Wonderful. I'm so happy that you sang for us. That's... Should we take some questions now from the audience? But before that, I just want to say thank you again.
Not at
Thank
all.
you for this rendezvous. It's in the
Yes.
reverse this time, but full of joy in my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jayabrato.
Any questions?
Any questions? I'm happy to answer any questions.
There's a gentleman.
Apna show, you have the mic. Ami shunte pari na na.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We've enjoyed your rendezvous. My question is, which is your favorite rendezvous? You've taken so many interviews.
So many. It's very difficult to say which is the favorite. You know, out of so many, there are a bunch of them that are very special. The ones where I also learned a lot from, you know. I enjoy meeting people who have stories to tell, who have done many things in life, who have succeeded and failed and succeeded again. Those are the people that I find fascinating. I think one of my good ones was the one with Mr. Devanand. He lived a full life. He had a philosophy. He taught me so much in that 1 hour that I spent with him. And that's one of my favorites. And it's funny, the ones I like, always the people who are older than me. I also like the one with Maharani Gayatri Devi. She was an amazing woman, so much culture, so much class, and yet so honest and frank. I also liked
The Jayalalitha one?
Jayalalitha. Oh, she was incredible. I was terrified before meeting her because people had told me, oh, she's very, you know, if she's not happy, she'll take away your reels, she'll do this, she'll do that. But I didn't find that. I mean, in the beginning, the first few minutes, I could see she was a bit stiff because she was assessing me while I was assessing her. And so there was that little 2 minutes. And then suddenly I could see in her face, she trusted me. And she relaxed. And after that, there was no going back. And she gave what she calls, what she told me many times later, one of her best rendezvous, best interviews. And she sang. I couldn't believe it.
Raja Sanam.
I couldn't believe that she would really sing. I just said that, which is your favorite song? And then she said she liked this and she liked that. I mean, she mentioned Aja Sanam. I said, well, I'll sing that with you. No, I am out of practice, she says. I said, no, I'll sing it with you. And she started singing.
Wouldn't it have been wonderful had Rendezvous happened at a time when you could have interviewed Manikda
Oh, yes,
and
I always feel
Mrinal together?
I don't know, together would be a good idea. Because my purpose in Rendezvous was not to create a kind of a competition. My purpose in Rendezvous was always to try and understand the person
yes.
who's in front of me and I'm the conduit for you to understand the person, you know?
True. Very true.
My name is Shondip Banerjee. My question is to you that Satyajit Ray once wrote a book on ancient world like dinosaurs, UFO, etc. And he want to do a film on this matter, on his book. But before that, one foreign director, Steven Spielberg, do a film on his story. So what is your impression or what do you think about this? Can you tell me?
Can I tell you exactly what happened? Manikda was in Mumbai, and I remember he came over to my house, and we were chatting, sitting on my terrace, and I keep asking questions of my friends. So I said to him, I said, Manikda, do you have any regrets? And he said, no, Simi, I don't really have many regrets except one. So I said, which one is that? He said, well, I don't really talk about it, but I was very keen to make a film on an extraterrestrial creature that comes to our country, and then he meets this little boy, and it's a story of this little boy and the relationship they have. He said, and I had made all the sketches. You know, I know how he makes sketches. I'd made all the sketches of how this extraterrestrial creature would look like. And I knew I couldn't make it with the finance available in India, so I took the script to Los Angeles, and I left it with 4 different agents. And I said, if you can work out a deal for me, I'd love to make this film. He said, I never heard from them again, but the next thing I saw is that Steven Spielberg was making exactly the same film with the same sketches that I had drawn of the extraterrestrial creature. And he said, I was very naive, Simi. I should never have done that, but I was naive. And that is my regret.
You know, we're talking about Manikda and Mrinal at the moment. So let the questions finish there, and then we'll take your question.
No, it's okay, whatever he wants.
Yeah?
You
You
know,
want her to...
I don't, actors don't get involved in the music. It comes to us.
I think there's a gentleman here who wants to ask a question.
It's a lovely song. And a lot of people's favorite song is Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna.
And yes?
Hi there. I can assuredly say on behalf of all Bengali males that Duli remains firmly entrenched in the Bengali male psyche because my phone is now rife with WhatsApp envious messages that, you know, we're seeing you. Just a question, if I recall it right, that you had also been organized a birthday kind of celebration for Manikda during the shoot. Am I right?
Yes, how do you know?
I think I'd read about it. So you
Yeah, we did. Very few people know about that. Gugi, do you remember that? We organized that birthday thing for him. He was so embarrassed that we did all that. Because it's very difficult to get a cake in Chipadhor, you know, in the forest. So we had organized it to come from Ranchi. And he was absolutely blown away. And we put just one candle, I remember very clearly. That's amazing that you remember this.
Somebody there, yes?
Good evening, madam.
Good evening.
Yeah, my question is, did you ever expect to be cast in Shatranj Ki Khiladi?
No, I didn't. Why? I don't think I would suit any role. Which role?
Only because the
nothing
film was in
specific.
Hindi?
Yes, nothing in specific, and you were working...
Why should I work in Hindi when I can work in Bengali?
Yeah, of course. That's right. Yeah, that's it.
Ma'am, my question is, if you have one world where Satyajit Ray and Mrinal Sen prevail, you have another world where Subhash Ghai prevail. How will you match it? Your experience of working with class of Subhash Ghai and rest, and your experience of working with Satyajit Ray and Mrinal Sen.
Look, the films in Mumbai are very different to the films in Bengal. You know, those are Bollywood mainstream films. You can't compare it to art cinema of Bengal. You know, one is realism, one is true, one is more entertainment. So you can't. There's no comparison between just being entertaining and going into a real human story. That's the dilemma I had when I came to India. I wanted to work in real films. And I was stuck with mainstream Bollywood films.
But within that, you also did Do Boond Pani, You did, some films which are different from...
Jayabrato, whenever I got a chance to do a film like that, I didn't ask for money even. I would just do it. Yeah, I was so happy to get an opportunity to work in those kind of films.
Yeah, because if we remember the songs that you sang, from Premero Joare, whatever, yeah, I still remember Pital Ki Mori Gagari from Do Bund Pani, and it was a very, very different film at that time. Manikda always referred to the Indian audience with a slight amount of disdain. He said that people don't understand, the masses don't understand cinema the way I look at it. Would you agree with that?
It's a different culture. It's just a different culture. We can't say Bengal is different to South India. South India is different to Bollywood. Everything is different. We can't all, and we should celebrate that difference. That's
Absolutely.
all I feel, yes.
One more question. Is there anybody else? There's a young lad there.
Hi. Good evening. Yeah, this way.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, I remember, you wrote something about after Satyajit Ray passed away. And I read it while I was in school at that time. But I remember that you wanted to make another living legend with him that was never made.
No.
So you would have done a lot of research on that. Did you? And do you kind of plan to kind of publish it in some way?
No, I didn't do any research, but I would have loved to make a documentary on him. But my documentaries or whatever I do, my work, it doesn't cover the professional side. I like to talk about the personal side. I like to try and understand the human being. And I would have loved to present the human side of Manikda, which I got to know. But unfortunately, look at the timing of things. It just didn't happen. But we are all, you see, Manikda is still here. We are talking about him. He still lives with us. We see his films. He's alive. So that is what immortality is. That you are alive long after in people's hearts and minds.
Thank you, Simi, so much. And that is how we will always remember Duli. Very much alive in our hearts after all these years.
Yes.
Thank you for those two wonderful performances.
Thank you so much. And all of you, thank you for being such a wonderful audience. This is why I love Kolkata. This is why I love everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. I am so happy you appreciate the audience because they've been waiting for you for many years because we've been vaguely talking about having you here. So I'm so glad that this was as fruitful for you as it is a privilege for us. Another round of applause for Simi ji. And thanks, Jayabrato. Thank you so very much. Yes, I would, please finish the photo call first, then I'll speak. We have a vote of thanks before heading the other way. Introduce, yes. So before we come to the concluding act at the grand steps, I'd like to do my vote of thanks to Story Bookstore, our bookstore partner, Arun Sign, our outdoor partner, Taj for our hospitality, Taj Bengal, Telegraph for all the help they give by putting the information out there and covering our events, RSBS Large Short Films, who helped us put together the Kalam Bioscope, EMTA, ITC Ashirwad, who are our associate partners, Wealth App, Greenply, and Exide. And above all, in this pyramid of gratitude. I would like to thank the audiences who braved the heat, and I was very anxious that I had to keep you as comfortable as possible. There was a lovely breeze which I cannot have claimed to have organized, but thank you for braving the heat when that breeze wasn't at work. I'd like to thank all the authors. Simi ji is here, Jayabrato da, all the authors and speakers who made the effort of adjusting their dates to ours. Simi ji actually changed her dates from coming back from London to accommodate this festival. And I would like to thank Victoria Memorial Hall and our very own angel in the Victoria Memorial Hall, who is Dr. Joyanto Sengupta. I rate him as highly and put him at as high a pedestal as the real angel on top of the Victoria Memorial. And Tata Steel, thank you for keeping the faith. I know you were worried about the off-season literature festival, but I won't say I told you so. All I will say is you are the steel in the nib that writes the script of this festival. Our next year's edition is from Jan 21st to 26th. That's January 21st to 26th. So we'll be back in our woolies and seeing a whole new lot of writers, speakers, discussing ideas, books, and a lot more. Enjoy the 9 months in between and pray for this country and this world. Thank you so much.